Welcome, everyone. This is our May 2023 edition of our Data Science Student Group webinar series led by the Midwest Big Data Innovation Hub. Today we have three guest speakers. Two are here now, and we'll have another one join us in a little bit that have leadership roles in a variety of data science clubs and organizations. But first, before we begin our talk, I'd like to make a quick introduction to the series. My name is JD Graham, and I'm the Outreach and Engagement Specialist with the Midwest Big Data Innovation Hub. We are a regional organization founded by the National Science Foundation, working within a 12-state area in the Midwest of the US, but we're also part of a national network. And the four hubs that are also funded by the NSF were founded in 2015 to be a catalyst to bring different groups together across the country. I'd like to actually show a little bit about the hub here. Let me share my screen. Does everybody get to see that? Great. And I just mentioned that we have other hubs, and we're all focused on data science and data-related activities across academia, industry, government, nonprofits, and we're helping to build these collaboration and partnerships across these different sectors. So as a part of this webinar series, we bring together student leaders from official RSAs on campuses, as well as informal organizations to share best practices, experiences, developing programmatic activities, and different ways of building local communities. We want to help you to improve and to learn how to build from each other. We want to build a network of student leaders across the region. So we have this webinar series. We also have a Slack community and profiles of other student groups on our website. And I encourage you to join our Slack community or look at our previous webinars, either on our website or on YouTube, and reach out to us if you'd like to participate with your group, either in a webinar or a profile series. And I'd like to turn it over to our different student club leaders today so they can introduce themselves. How about we start with Elizabeth?
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Gilbert. I currently lead the Cincinnati Data and Analytics Meetup. And previously, my experience with data analytics student orgs was at the Big Data and Analytics Association at The Ohio State University. I currently am a product data scientist working at Cisco on the Duo two-factor authentication app. And I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Oleksandra, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. My name is Oleksandra. I'm currently a freshman at Indiana University in Bloomington. My major is computer science with software engineering specialization and also data science and mathematics minors. I am myself from Ukraine, so I'm kind of not the native student. English not my first language, so if you may hear some mistakes or something like that, please, I hope just for your understanding. So also, I am studying at Lady School of Informatics, Computing, and Engineering, where I am holding my position as a junior officer in the Data Science Club. And also, I'm a member of Hutton Honors College, which is kind of the department where students have like access to some particular courses, which are like upper level courses for computer scientists. So this is kind of the very short bio about me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that introduction and to know about your organizations a little bit, but we'd like to get to know them a little bit better. And Elizabeth, could you start us off with exactly what your club does and your role in it? I'll give it over to you.
Absolutely. So I put some slides together, first covering the Big Data and Analytics Association at Ohio State, and then the Cincinnati Data and Analytics Meetup to give you a little bit of the background of what the BDAA student org looked like, and we'll translate into what I do right now. So BDAA, the executive board, I have a bunch of photos and I'll just talk to them. So this is a photo of one of our years of executive board members. The structure is about 15 or so volunteer students who run the executive board in positions like president, vice president, education director, corporate relations director, internal relations director, marketing, treasurer, event coordinator, webmaster, an analyst, because we analyze our own data we collect, and then a team of about 5 or so liaisons to other organizations in the university to make connections and share events from us and from the organizations to collaborate. The funding that BDAA has, speaking from my experience in the organization, 3 years from 2017 to 2019, terms in leadership came from sponsors, as well as from the career fair. Here you see a couple of photos of different years of the career fair, some different venues we had it. So sponsorship is an opportunity for companies who are looking to recruit students, get talent, to give money to BDAA, and in return for opportunities to connect with that talent, give tech talks, come to the career fair, things like that. And the career fair is open to sponsors as well as more broadly other companies who you can see a good number of companies that come and recruit. And it's definitely mutually beneficial to students and organizations who are looking to connect to that talent. So it's the primary focus and where the funding comes from. That's all I'm going to share detail-wise, but I know that for students who are trying to start up organizations, specifics can be really helpful. So I'd be open to connecting with people individually on if they're interested in seeing an example sponsorship packet or anything like that, but I'll leave it at that. As far as our outreach activities go, BDAA had lots of outreach activities, a lot of variety. We have a little bit more simplified version professionally with the Cincinnati Data Analytics Meetup now, but here is a photo of the annual hackathon that I created there, called it Data IO, to play off of Hack Ohio. And this, as well as weekly meetings that were workshops or tech talks, the annual career fair that you just saw the photos of, sponsor nights every semester, and then socially a formal every year and a social every semester. Were kind of the gamut of events that we held, all including food, because it's a great way to get people to build community and show up. And then I'll dive into a little bit more of the weekly meetings. Those look like tech talks and workshops. The schedule is open first to sponsor companies who, based on their level of sponsorship, get their choice of date to have representatives come and speak. Often the topic looks like, what does analytics look like at our company? But it can be as specific as they'd like it to. It's really open to them. And then workshops kind of fill in the rest of the schedule, trying to hold space for at least one workshop a month. And the education director of BDAA is the one that organizes and runs that. So how we find the content for the outreach activities, as you can see, is strongly delegated to sponsors and the education director, which is helpful to have a full schedule of activities for the semester and lots of opportunities for students to learn about what analytics in lots of different industries and application areas and type of companies looks like, as well as get hands-on experience with some different tools and technologies. As far as what I learned by being at BDAA, my biggest takeaways, here you see the last couple of pictures are semester kickoffs, which were the highest attended meeting of the semester with hundreds of students connecting each semester. And then, this point in the semester, we get a little bit more busy. But the thing that's my biggest takeaway is that the connection between emerging talent and companies looking for that talent is in demand. There's lots of engagement. I think that's a really, really valuable place for student orgs to fill. There's nobody who knows what new students in analytics are learning, like the students themselves, and what they need, like those students. So having student-run organizations, I think, is incredibly valuable. And having a direct connection to companies through the student org, I think, is a wonderful way for to build relationships personally and to grow a network that endures. Many of my positions that I've had for internships when I was still in school and full-time jobs now that I've been out of school were from the network that I built at my student org at BDAA. So I definitely encourage other people to invest in their student orgs and participate in them, whether it's through leadership or through all the opportunities they provide. And then I'd say that the biggest challenge to look out for with the student org is scheduling. I think that the corporate relations director position is the most crucial and challenging in the e-board. The positions I held were liaison, event coordinator, internal relations director, running the team of liaisons, and then executive vice president. So I didn't have the corporate relations director role myself, but I saw firsthand through all those years how valuable and important it is to have somebody who really knows the ropes and behind the scenes, who's been on the executive board before, who's really reliable and good at communication. I think some of the challenges are getting companies to respond in a timely manner. They're busy professionals as well, and this is not, their full-time job is not to correspond with student orgs and outreach often because they are the ones doing the data science themselves. They're the practitioners that are coming to speak, that are the point of connection. Sometimes maybe it's someone from a marketing or outreach team as well, depending on the company. But getting the schedule established as soon as possible and as broadly as possible with those partner organizations can be challenging and requires a lot of focus and diligence. So, and you can see that the structure of the organization, if you don't have those things, a little bit like COVID affected BDAA, and I'm speaking from 2016 and 2019. I avoided the COVID semesters myself as a leader and as a student, but I know that it's much more challenging now that some of those relationships have become, had to go through COVID. I'm happy to connect people to hear firsthand from student leaders in BDAA now, but it's definitely more challenging without a strong schedule and strong connections. So those are my takeaways from BDAA. And I'm just going to dive right into the Cincinnati Data and Analytics Meetup. My experience in BDAA strongly affected my desire to establish a meetup from the ground up. When I was looking for networking opportunities after moving to Cincinnati in August 2020, I was looking in kind of fall 2021, and there wasn't anything that had come back from the pandemic yet. Meetup-wise, there were lots of things beforehand, but nothing that came back. So I decided to establish one at the co-working space where I work downtown over the Rhine. And so this meetup meets on the third Wednesday of the month, and there's a 4 to 5 p.m. talk and a 5 to 6 p.m. networking time. And the topic of the meetup is intentionally broad in data and analytics. Topics are technical and non-technical, and the primary goal of Meetup is to build analytics communities. So that's a summary of it, and I'll go into some similar topics that I did for BDA. So the organizing team, I don't have a photo of us, it's just me and one other person. We haven't taken an organizing team photo yet, but he's front and center in this photo facing away from the camera, so this is a good enough one to represent. But Daniel Rowe and I organized the Meetup. We're both in analytics and data science and care about in-person community. So it's just a volunteer leadership team of 2 right now. So a little different, a little smaller scale than BDAA. Sponsorship-wise, we have sponsors cover things directly. The biggest difference between BDAA and the Meetup is that so far, with just the 2 of us, we haven't established kind of a financial aspect to our organization. We don't take payment from sponsors directly to us. We ask them to place a catering order or enter their information to pay for the Meetup account. And those are the only 2 expenses we currently have. And the venue is given in kind from the co-working space, Union Hall in over the Rhine, downtown Cincinnati, which is a beautiful space, as you'll see through all these photos. My first set of photos from BDAA was lecture halls, which fit a lot of capacity and are wonderful and very natural for a college student org. But it's been lovely to have a community building around Union Hall in no time. So far, attendance at these meetups, as you'll see through the photos, last year had a lot of variability because we were posting through Eventbrite and not meetup.com yet. So I'd say it was minimum 4 in the summer when it was very busy and maximum 15 or 20. And this year, every month so far, we've had almost exactly 20 people. You can see these photos are all from this year because I've been taking many more photos to share with the sponsors who have been providing food so kindly. So these are all 2023 photos, and food so far has looked like asking for catering for 20, maybe 25 now that we're getting more consistent at that 20 number, which is not a very big lift and for many sponsor companies. And I've been kind of batching into 3-month asks so that a sponsor company covers food for 1 quarter or the next upcoming set of 3 months. So that's what it looks like there. And yeah, that's everything I have to say about sponsorship. But,
I really appreciate that, Elizabeth. That's a great overview. Did you have anything more you wish to say about that? I'm sorry, I thought I might have interrupted you.
Yeah, I was just going to cover, I kind of already gave a summary of the monthly meetups. I don't think, yeah, just a couple more points. I'll give you my takeaways, the triumphs and pitfalls we had from this very briefly. But yeah, monthly meetup wise, the topics are also delegated, as I saw in the value of BDAA. I don't write all the content for the meetup. Absolutely. I provide the time, the space, and the connection between people. And I really leave it fully up to the speaker to choose whatever topic they like to speak on, and just try to have a variety of technical and non-technical different roles and industries, things like that. But whoever is able and available to speak, I give the floor to them. And just rely on the network I have in Cincinnati and people who have spoken at other conferences in Cincinnati or other meetups. As well as a few people I know from other cities like Dayton and Columbus who have been interested and willing to drive down because they didn't have their own meetups so far. So that's what monthly events have looked like. We have started quarterly networking events outside where it's very, very small talk, but mostly just to get people to network, meet each other in partnership with other organizations around Cincinnati to augment our monthly events just a little bit additional. You'll see a lot less programming heavy than BDAA, just different scale, less of that kind of recruiting focus now that looking for new roles isn't so standardized as with students. And then my learnings so far from this last year of organizing the meetup is that community development, that in-person community is the main goal. We don't have a video or online component, or unfortunately have the ability to record because of that with a small team, but having in-person time to network afterwards and talk to the speaker and each other is the main goal, especially with the stage we're at professionally. It's not so much immediate recruitment, but long-term building the community and network in person around analytics in Cincinnati. And people have said that they really have acknowledged they really appreciate that space. So I'm pretty confident that's the value we're able to add, and was strongly influenced by my experience of having a strong community network from student org. And the only thing I would say as a pitfall is you can see the scale difference between an established organization that I came into. It had several years of student org leaders building up BDAA before I even joined it. And this is something we've created from scratch. And I just say that the biggest thing to keep in mind is to be gentle on yourself and not bite off more than you can chew. In-person analytics networking community is important and valuable, but anything from the ground up is hard to build. So, and anything will look different when you don't have the structure of an institution and existing community around it already. So those are all things I'll share about this. I'm happy to take questions later, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. That was a great overview. I do have a few questions. Just you talking about that incredible transition of having all of the framework and all of the logistics kind of planned out before at a university, and then you deciding, hey, let's do this in a non-university setting, really starting it from scratch again. How did you go about even finding sponsors? And I'm sure that there was some takeaways you got from the original clubs, but how did you go about that in case people think, hey, could I do such a thing? Like, how would they do that?
Yes, if you want to, you definitely can. It's definitely possible. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is in data science and engineering, you often think of your minimum viable product. I think that's true with organizing as well. For all of 2022, we started, our first meetup was in May, and the third Wednesday of the month means we skipped December. So for those meetups last year, we just had the meetup in the space. We did not have a food sponsor, and we used Eventbrite because it was free. That means we had lower retention because we were using Eventbrite and people did not get notified. There was not really a community aspect or a listserv aspect to signing up. And people didn't stay as long afterwards for the networking portion because the food has created a sense of community and time and space and relaxation to socialize and connect and network. But we only had to get sponsorship for the space. being a part of the co-working space, I work remotely from here, my home in Over the Rhine. And I go to the co-working space. And when I mentioned I was looking for in-person networking, they said that they would be happy to host it in their space because they wanted to build more community around the co-working space. So that was lucky, that fell into my lap, that there was a space available that I could use for free, that was accessible and convenient for me, which is a big part of it, and a gorgeous space to meet in. But from that takeaway that all you need is a space to meet. And if you can find that for free, then you can run an event. And once we had the stability of people coming, I was able to say, look, we had all these 2022 meetups, and so many people came. I can tell you that 15 or 20 people came to each meetup towards the end. And we'd like to offer a sponsorship opportunity. And that, so in late 2022 and early 2023 is when I started reaching out for the opportunity to sponsor food for 20 people and get your name on the meetup. So building one step at a time is another big component, just being okay with where you're at for the first year or so, and going from there. It was discouraging to see a meetup where 2 or 4 people came, but that's going to be part of it. And now to have meetups where 20 people come every single month, and I get to talk to all of them, and everyone gets to introduce themselves at the meetup at the beginning. It's a really wonderful environment of connection, and I'm really, really happy about it, and excited to see where we go. And glad that we have the meetup.com account, which costs $70 for your first 6 months and then $90 for 6 months after that, which is, you could pay for it by yourself, but is also wonderful to have a sponsor who's willing to pay for and support and get their name on it as well. So yeah, that's what it looks like over time, and it is possible. So I definitely encourage people to go for it. And I'm happy to chat. I've encouraged some friends and supported them in starting the meetup in Columbus as well. So happy to distill even more if anyone has any questions about starting it for themselves.
If you guys are looking for a video series, I feel like your expertise in just starting a club and having your club help you produce a series on how to start a club would be incredibly helpful. I mean, I know there are people out there that think they want to do these things, and it is very discouraging when you first start and somebody says no or doesn't show up. And instead, seeing somebody else that's done it in this series, I hope is a first step. But, really producing maybe even your club's own series of how you become successful might be something to think about in the future. Interesting things. And I know that your former club was at the university, had a hackathon. Is there anything similar in a kind of give back to the community method or way that you've thought with this particular organization? Or is that something, a goal in the future? Is it, you're just getting established. So, baby steps.
For sure. Right now, I would definitely say it's a future goal. When I was in Columbus, involved with the tech community there, networking with them, I know there were hackathons that existed in the professional realm post-college, but I am not aware of things. I really moving to Cincinnati during the pandemic means that I don't have a lot of exposure to things that existed pre-pandemic here. So there may be something. I know some conferences have come back, but nothing hackathon specific wise. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye out and looking to connect with other people about that.
Thank you so much. I want to give our next guest a chance to talk about herself and her involvement in her organization. Oleksandra, could you tell us about your organization? I'm just going to give it over to you.
Yes, of course. Just give me please one moment to upload my presentation to share it with you. Okay, so the quick question, can you hear me and see the full presentation okay? If I just move it like a little bit down like that, do you see the whole presentation, like the whole slide?
I do.
Okay, thank you. So, hello everyone. I would like to thank you for the excellent opportunity and invitation from the Midwest Big Data Hub to participate in Students Group webinar and to share my experience with others. My name is Oleksandra Tkachuk and I am from Ukraine. I'm a freshman student pursuing my bachelor's degree in computer science with software engineering specialization at Indiana University in Bloomington. As soon as I added data science and mathematics as my minors to my official program, I decided to try myself in the data science field. Thus, I'm currently holding my position in a data science club at Indiana University as a junior officer. My personal responsibilities in the club include planning coding competitions, hackathons, data science project workshops, and call-out events, creating business cards, merchandising, discussing agenda, maintaining official Instagram page. Yeah, I'm on Discord and LinkedIn, facilitating initiatives such as faculty talks or social events and more. I would like you to introduce you my club and to talk about all opportunities that we offer in detail. Okay. So Data Science Club at Indiana University is a student-run organization affiliated with the Laddie School of Informatics, Computing, and Engineering at Indiana University in Bloomington. It works in tandem with the multidisciplinary data science department at SAIS. It's kind of department that checks all the incoming students, freshman students, pays for give finances for organizations in order to flourish, to help them to flourish, and place students to densely. So they kind of manage all the structures at Laddie School specifically. The Data Science Club helps students acquire vital skills that will kickstart their journey into the data science world through various means like tutorials, seminars, study groups, and more. The club organizes networking meetups for students to connect with alumni, professionals, and employers for career guidance. Moreover, it also conducts hackathons and dayathons. It's kind of like our creative name for our hackathons to get hands-on experience with the real-world problems and brings great opportunities to socialize through fun events. The Data Science Club at Indiana University also allows any interested IU student or alumni to participate in the organization without regard to arbitrary consideration of any personal characteristics. Members are also expected to participate in meetings, events, and activities of the club regularly. They can promote the club through the improvements and achievements in the field of data science. They can discuss new ideas, collaborate with other club members, and help improve their knowledge and skills collectively. Additionally, they are expected to help the club network grow professionally and academically for the interconnected learning across various domains, as I said, through workshops and especially hackathons, because it's your chance to showcase your skills, to work with the professionals, to work also with the people who are master students at Indiana University. They have a huge experience, and I will talk about that just in a moment. Okay, so Data Science Club is dedicated to fostering a community of data enthusiasts with over 450 students membership on Be Involved and 777 on LinkedIn. Data Science Club has gained substantial popularity in comparison with other clubs at IU since its establishment in the fall of 2017. The club has a reputation for hosting renowned speakers who share their expertise and insights in various areas of data science. Our goal. After the Data Science Club was founded, we established kind of a spatial term, which is a mission and vision. At Indiana University, the Data Science Club plays a pivotal role in cultivating a tight-knit community of aspiring data scientists. Moreover, the club serves as a valuable networking platform, facilitating connections among students, alumni, and industry professionals, thereby fostering a supportive and collaborative environment for all involved in the field of data science. And as to my knowledge, as soon as I was added as a junior officer to this club, I kind of gave the idea that a lot of students have, they're really curious about the data science. What is that? And since I was added, as I said, to this club, we started hosting information sessions for undergraduate students specifically in order to inform them about different fields of the data science so they can be like sure and instructed which field is appropriate and is a good suit for them. The primary sources of income for Data Science Club are SAIS, Data Science Program, and IU Funding Board. The club can also generate income through the sale of merchandise, event sponsorships, and various donations. Fields of our interest. As I said, data science consists of various fields, and sometimes students are undecided about like the main field they want to pick for their career, for their like future goals and work and their personal interest. So as enticing as it sees, data science is not as easy field to enter into it, as it requires some strong prerequisites such as mathematics skills, programming skills, time management skills. Data science is all about uncovering meaningful insights, usage trends, consumer behavior, attention, etc., and findings by using complex algorithms and tools, machine learning processes, mathematics, statistics, programming technology, and so on and so forth. So the Data Science Club at IU hosts information sessions and talks with experts about any branch of data science so that students can actually understand what is going on underneath the hood and choose the right field for their career. So the Data Science Club at Indiana University takes pride in organizing a diverse range of events to support its members' growth and engagement. These events include inviting esteemed guest speakers, workshops, datathons, hackathons, brown bag for job opportunities, information sessions, data science boot camps, call-out and networking sessions, guest speakers, and more. I couldn't fit all of that in this table, but it is what it is. Here you can observe examples of information sessions that we host. The first one is the introductory session specifically for undergraduate students, which is Introduction to Data Science with Ashutosh Hatidara. In addition to all perks, students had access to our GitHub personal repository with resources and materials for further studying. Ashutosh himself is a computer science engineer, open source contributor, and community influencer. He loves building end-to-end AI projects. Ashutosh is associated with a few open source communities. He influenced ordinary people and small local businesses to include AI and ML in their products. He also completed his internship on TikTok and has over 38,000 subscribers on LinkedIn, while being at the same time a master's student at Indiana University, which kind of impressed me a lot and gave me a lot of motivation to move on in data science field. The second session is a virtual technical talk with Joshua Starmer. Although like the main goal of this session was the following: although statistics, machine learning, and data science can sometimes seem like very intimidating subjects, they are actually pretty simple because each technique is essentially just a series of modest and straightforward procedures. So Joshua tried to simplify like the main approaches into manageable chunks utilizing StockWest. He is also a founder and CEO at StockWest and lead AI educator who also has almost 8,000 subscribers on LinkedIn. We also hosted data visualization workshop using Power BI by Pete Benbow, who focuses on database development, data engineering, and business intelligence, whereas most of his experience is in SQL Server and Power BI. We also had a chance to host the info session with Deloitte, which is the International Professional Services Network located in London, England. Students were able to join a virtual session to learn about the current hiring process, internships, the full-time jobs they offer, and so on and so forth, and to speak with the recruiters and to get like all the hints, advice, what you should expect as a employee, and so on and so forth. So I believe was really helpful for students, though I didn't have a chance to participate in it because I was just recently added to this club. Hackathons. The Data Science Lab also conduct hackathons. Some of them you can observe on the current slide. The most recent one is the Hashtagathon that took place in spring semester 2023, in which I work and design this poster that you can see on the right side of the slide. It was a data challenge for Twitter analysis and trend prediction. The theme of the challenge revolved around analyzing Twitter data and forecast patterns for trending events. Hackathons overall are our unique club opportunities to showcase students' data analysis skills, interact with experts from CNET's lab, which is a Center of Complex Networks and System Research that's based at Indiana University, and receive valuable feedback and also a chance to win exciting goodies such as money, official certificates from the club, or even Indiana University hoodies, comforters, and much more. Also, in collaboration with the DPHI, which is a AI Planet, for now, their new name of their company, the Data Science Club organized free data science boot camps. These were Python basics for data science, introduction to pandas, data visualization with Matplotlib, natural language processing, introduction to NumPy, unsupervised learning, and explainable AI. There are also various workshops that we hosted. Here you can see data visualization workshop, Python for beginners workshop, Python for machine learning workshop, and also there were more. I just couldn't find the official posters on the Instagram page because I was just granted the opportunity to manage this official Instagram page, to maintain all the information, current information, new upcoming events, and to inform students about what is going on in the club itself. So in Python for beginners workshop, for example, we covered comprehensions, lambda, map, reduce, filter, and many other topics. These workshops overall cover a wide range of topics, including data analysis, machine learning, programming languages, data visualization, and so on. Led by experienced instructions and industry professionals, the workshops provide hands-on training, allowing participants to apply the concepts and techniques learned in real-world scenarios. Here you can see our stellar executive board, which consists of master students. I'm actually the only one freshman student, undergrad here in our team. Our president, Wei Pao, leads and communicates the direction and vision for the entire club. He also provides objectives, plans, and initiatives for other officers, coordinate events and initiatives across the Data Science Club. Other officers, including me, are primary support to the president to help him execute his duties as on needed basis. I let their email addresses and also LinkedIn profiles so that you can contact them directly if you are interested. It's a great team of brilliant people with a huge experience, and it's kind of a unique opportunity for me to be among them and to understand what is going on underneath the hood when it comes to planning events, collaborating with people, learning data science concepts. And, it's kind of also going out from the comfort zone for me because they all are masters and I'm only a freshman, and I have to, stay in the same topic with them and to catch information quickly, to not be just, a useless member of the club, which sometimes can be hard, especially in planning hackathons when they try to connect with some professors or people who can give a talk, famous people. And I don't have much such friends, and because they have huge experience, they also help me to make new connections and grow just as a person, among brilliant, really brilliant people. work with them all together. So if you're interested in our club or may have any potential ideas for collaboration, you can contact our club on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Discord. There is also an opportunity to send a request on beanbold.com, which is an official page with the Indiana University organizations. And you can send any requests with any questions or concerns, and you will be kindly answered by our president or vice president. Thank you so much for your attention and time dedicated. I hope this presentation was helpful to you. And if you have any questions, I am really happy to answer now.
That was a very complete description of your club. Thank you very much. You know, you mentioned a few things that really got to me. And I think one of those things is growth, because that's what I think these clubs offer people, is the chance to grow. And I can tell, being a freshman, that's rather intimidating at first to be introduced into an organization, and for an organization like that to have everything already a well-oiled machine. And you know, the phrase "fake it till you make it." I'm sure that when they started as well, they were not as confident as they now seem. And I think that is something you will grow into. But I'm going to ask, you know, on that side of growth, what made you choose this organization? Like, how did you find it? Especially as a freshman, there's a lot of choices, and it can be a difficult journey to find out where you fit in and where you belong.
You know, thank you so much for your question. It's actually really emotional and interesting, my emotional interesting story that I'm really happy to share with you all. When I got this idea for applying to be a junior officer in this club because I tried to go off from my comfort zone, as I said, because, you know, it's kind of a struggle for a non-native student to come to a foreign country, switch to other language. And I just thought, like, what if I just try to apply? Maybe I thought I got 0 chances to be accepted because my opponents were masters and PhD students. I was only one freshman among them. And I was like, there is no way I'm going to be accepted. But I will at least just try to understand what is interview itself, how is it to speak with other people, how is it to be interviewed, how is it to present your personality, your skills. And so when I just finished my interview with them, I was so excited and disappointed simultaneously because, you know, I knew that the interview was really good. I felt good about that, but I also knew that other people are masters and PhDs, and there is almost like no chance for me to be accepted. And when I just got this email about acceptance, that I was invited to our club as a junior officer, I felt so many exciting emotions. I felt so like, you know, I felt like that I accomplished something really huge in my life. There's like one more accomplishment. And also at the same time, data science is a really, I would say, fancy topic in our computer science classes. People would just talk about that data science is something new and interesting, and they're growing field of people who are interested in this field, particularly because, you know, software engineer is, everybody just wants to be a software engineer in their first year, but then when they come to their second semester, they can change their minds. A lot of people would pick like very different domain and not software engineering. And as I said, data science sounds like something new and fresh. So people are really interested in this particular field. That's the reason why I decided to apply for the data science club, particularly because we have also the club which is related to Google, and computer science club is kind of a general one. And since I added data science as my minor into my program, I decided to try to see like what should I expect and what are these people who are actually already chose this field for their career, for their whole like future goals for their life. And it's really great experience, and I'm really happy that I chose this club particularly because working with a team who are confident now and being like unconfident among them, it helps you to grow as a person, helps you to like find the ways out when the situation is really like pressing on you. And you must not also like you must also show like yourself as a person who are dedicated to work, who knows what is going on, who wants to help. Even though you are not master, people still see that you are willing to work. And this is the main point. Even though you're unconfident, you have to still press on it and you will be good. So I'm really glad I'm this data science club, and I help to promote it to undergrad students, help them can share my experiences as I do right now with you, can talk to other people who are still undecided and want to try to apply somewhere as I did recently. So this is a huge experience. I'm really grateful that I have it in my life.
Yes, I can tell from the way that you're talking that this has been a very important building, I think, of your own self-worth, of who you are, through the connections that you're making. And I mean, I don't know if these leaders of the organization know what kind of mentors they are being right now, but I think that's mindful for all of us in these organizations and clubs, whether it's in school or are now out of it. We are secretly mentors to every person. Today, a little more visibly in a webinar and this series, but more invisibly, we show people our true selves by accepting them and doing what we do so they can emulate those behaviors. And I can tell that they've had a big impact on you. And I'm really, it was nice to hear that a club can emotionally affect somebody. And it's not always just about a career, but making you a truly, better person and to push you to grow as a person in general.
Yeah, thank you.
Khushi, hi, how are you doing?
Fantastic. I apologize for being late. It's been a hectic a couple of weeks since finals ended because my internship started immediately after. But I apologize for being super late, but I'm ready to present now if you'd want.
I completely want. Could you give us just a brief introduction of who you are before you start showing us your organization?
Absolutely, yeah. So, hi, my name is Khushi, and I just finished my junior year at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and I'm pursuing information science plus data science, along with minors in computer science and statistics. It sounds like a lot, but you'll be surprised. There's a ton of overlap. So you'd rather get as much as you can, and get your buck's worth. So. But yeah, that's a bit about me, and I plan on pursuing my master's in data science immediately after I graduate next sem. So yeah, a lot coming in. And in terms of my background, besides the data science concentration, the past couple of years, I've not planned it, but somehow I've been drawn in one way or another to natural language processing. I think it has to do with the LLM revolution that's been happening. So naturally, there's a greater need for people in NLP. So yeah, somehow all of my projects in school, whether it be through consulting at Disruption Lab and my work at John Deere, have been very tied to NLP. Last summer, I had my first internship at John Deere, where I got to work on sentiment classification of customer calls. And that was to help reduce customer churn and prioritize which customers to contact first, because John Deere receives thousands upon thousands of calls, and it becomes overwhelming to kind of decide who to address first. So this sentiment classification groups calls into red, yellow, and green, depending on level of dissatisfaction. It's interesting to see that, so initially they used AWS services to do this sort of classification. They wanted me to build a homegrown machine learning model. And now they've transitioned to GPT-3 for sentiment classification. So it's interesting how fast, we're evolving, and the steep curve in how technology is changing by the month and even by the day for that matter. This summer, I'm working again at John Deere. And this time I'm working on generative AI, specifically helping operators at the factory write quality issue summaries through a chatbot interface. So what that means is, let's say I'm a worker and I have a one-line summary of an issue with a tractor. I'd put that into the chatbot. The chatbot would prompt further questions and help fill out a larger summary, detailed summary of what's happening, what's the quality issue. And this helps kind of reduce inefficiency with machine repair so that workers do not have to come and look at like the part and spend hours trying to figure out what's wrong if we have better quality issue descriptions. But yeah, that's a little bit about me and my work. I can keep going on, but I guess for the sake
I'm
of
sure
time.
you can. I find that actually really interesting. Yes, these NLPs are going to change everything. It's really interesting just to hear your anecdote about how it's changing data science, because it's not always just writing software, analyzing, but new ways to gather the data and to make it more interpretable for others to be able to use it. And that is something that the Hub has been involved with. John could speak more about it, but we're here to hear about you and your club. If you'd like to give us a presentation of more of what the club is doing, I'd love to hear that as well.
Yes, absolutely. I will share my screen and begin. I apologize for not being super polished. I did what I can given the time I had, but I hope this is good enough. IDSC stands for the Illinois Data Science Club. A little bit about us. We're a club that we're not like other data science clubs, I would say. A lot of people are looking for people that, have stats expertise or machine learning expertise or math. We strongly believe that data science can be applied to any field. And one of the things we noticed at like project, like club fairs where you promote different clubs was anytime somebody came by our board, they were like, oh, I'm not a stats major. I'm not a data science major. I can't do this. We don't believe that. We believe that, honestly, data science can drive decision-making in all sorts of fields. And that is our inherent club vision, to spread it amongst people of diverse backgrounds. And you don't need to have the top, I guess, data science, qualifications. The goal is to bring people to a baseline so that they can make good use of the data in any sort of field. And of course, you leave certain work to the experts, but it's good to have a baseline level of knowledge. And that was kind of our goal of our club, to expose as much as possible and expose people of different backgrounds to data science. Here's our team. Unfortunately, a lot of them cannot be here today, actually all of them, but I thought I should still give credit to our amazing team, which is, by the way, all female exec. I believe we're the only tech club at UVI that is all female driven, except for the women in computer science, obviously. So we're super duper proud of that. And we're also not CS students, and none of us are CS students. We're actually information science students. Although we want more diversity on our exec, we want to show that information science has a value. And the reason for that is because we're not so focused on the technical aspects. I feel, CS is a lot about, getting the software right, getting the algorithms right, but we're focusing on how to apply, the things that we learn and how to make things user-oriented, like in an era where everything is customization driven, and it's all about the users and how they feel and how technology impacts society. And we strongly believe that our information science background can bring in the human-centric aspect of technology. So that is somewhat our vision. And by the way, we started our club last semester. And we've made a lot of changes. We initially, think of it as an experiment. We created like a project that we made everybody follow. And we kind of saw how they interacted with the project and completed steps, almost to do our own data science analysis of how we should lead people and, kind of to anticipate what are people going to get, what are people going to struggle with. So it's kind of like our, our experimental semester. And this semester, we actually focused on helping teams build their own data science projects rather than give them a project, right? Because in the real world, it's not like a class where they give you a project and a data set, you figure things out with that. You find your own data, you find your own ways to analyze and make use out of that data. And we don't want to teach people, we don't want to handhold people through every step of the process. We want to teach them how to learn. That was kind of our goal, because I think, in this time, the knowledge gap, going back to what Oleksandra had said, you don't need to be a master's student or PhD student to do data science. The knowledge gap has been declining every year as, we have more online courses, resources, and now ChatGPT. So there's so many sources out there to learn, and we want to help people maximize how they learn. That was our goal. Going off of that, we had our purpose and key values. So as I'd said, we want to empower people of all backgrounds and professions to work together to elevate decision-making through data science in all sorts of fields. And our key values were diversity, collaboration, and persistence. And we were different from other consulting orgs at UIUC who are very outcome driven, or people get assigned to clients and there's a lot of pressure to make a deliverable. We wanted to make it a sort of extended chill hackathon type of vibe, where they can unconditionally ask all of us for support and guidance while pursuing a project of their own interest. So yeah, that was kind of our vision for the club. A lot of what we taught them, despite, not guiding them through the whole, every little step of the way, we had certain key things that we wanted them to understand, which are basic data science fundamentals. And as you can see, we walked them through this pipeline and gave them examples of how to do each step of the way and be successful. We've also wanted to, people to realize that data science is not a sole skill. Usually you end up learning other things like software engineering or data engineering that go hand in hand. So we wanted people to understand almost like a little bit of everything so they get a better overview. So what we did, we had three main things. We had projects, we had workshops, and then we have essentially networking sessions or corporate panels to further advise students. And in terms of projects, we divided people up into equal groups, and they got to choose their own projects, and they had our guidance along the way to successfully complete their projects, which will lead to a final project showcase that is judged by corporate professionals. And this was our project prompt: to collect, analyze, and model data on a topic of interest to present a solution to a societal or business problem. The key word here is societal or business problem, because a lot of times people do data science just for the sake of data science. We strongly believe that it should either give some valuable insight or solve some kind of problem and kind of be a precursor to some sort of societal or business initiative. So that was our key thing. Communicate how whatever you've done leads to a bigger purpose. And so that was something that we wanted to instill in our members. And here's a quick roadmap that we had suggested for the project. The first step is the ideation, or finding your topic of interest. The second step is to consider data management and planning, like where are you going to get data? Where are you going to store it? Whether it's in an open source database or just a regular pandas data frame in a CSV, and how are you going to update it, right? Data oftentimes goes obsolete. What may be relevant the last month or last year may not be relevant now. So how are you going to constantly update the data to make sure you're getting the most accurate information. And then data collection. So how you're going to collect the data. I kind of mentioned it, but are you going to use like ready-made data sets? Are you going to web scrape? That's what I mean by online tracking. Are you going to web scrape the data? Or are you going to get a more direct format, which is like interviewing people to get data? We didn't recommend the forms interview method because usually you can't really get enough data if you rely on forms. And then the next step is data processing. So how you clean it, how you format it, and also doing a bit of like EDA or analysis, because a lot of times if you jump straight away to the model, either your data is not ready to bring the best output, or you haven't completely understood the data the best that you can, and you might be focusing on something that's not as relevant. And to make sure that all of those things align, data processing and EDA is very important. And then the next step is data modeling. Once you've gotten through all of the steps, this is what we want to emphasize. A lot of people are so focused on jumping to machine learning, and it seems like the hot topic. However, what people don't realize is machine learning is actually quite simple. What's difficult is the data. The data is what gives everybody problems. If your data is solid, modeling will fall in place. But that is one of the final steps. And of course, showcasing the solution is equally important, right? You want to be able to explain what you've learned in a way that appeals to business stakeholders, in a story-like format that's easy to understand. And because of that, we recommend things like dashboards and various kind of web apps. Of course, there's like JavaScript, Node, or React-based apps that require a lot of web dev knowledge. But you can also do simple instant model demos on platforms like Streamlit or Flask, especially Streamlit. It's like a Python wrapper, where Streamlit is a Python wrapper where you don't need front end to do any sort of model demo. You just need the code of your machine learning models or whatever else you're trying to demo, and just copy paste that. And Streamlit will automatically have things like text boxes, titles, and various other easy to use objects to create instant web pages without front end. But yeah, so that was our project roadmap, and I'll go through our semester plan. I defined a lot of the structure as a project director. So we had our info night, then we had our project kickoff where we go through the details of the projects. Then we space it out with various types of workshops. There's some basic things like some data science-based workshops and data collection or management. Data collection or management refers more to like how to use open source databases, how to collect data and connect to these databases in Python and store it in there, versus data analysis and data science is more like how to use things like pandas, NumPy, and various machine learning models. And then we had a bunch of other workshops based on demand and what we felt was necessary for the project, switching off with a work check-in. So it's like 1 week is a check-in and the next week is a workshop or a corporate professional speaker session. And we kept alternated so people don't get bored and they feel engaged throughout the whole time. And the final is the project showcase. And of course, no experience needed. All majors are welcome. We had no application process, and that is kind of a core fundamental of our club. And these are some of the project workshops that I'd mentioned. As I said, basic Python fundamentals, databases, and web scraping. Web scraping was a huge request. A lot of people, it's becoming a very popular thing for sourcing data. Not a lot of people want to use ready-made data sets because you can't get the most up-to-date information at times. So web scraping is a helpful way to do that. So we taught that on demand. So that was one of our learning processes. Sometimes we had to learn things on the go and teach it to students. If we expect them to learn on the go, we as execs should also be able to learn it on the go. So those were some of our challenges, but ways to learn. And of course, EDA and machine learning, Flask, Tableau, and Streamlit as ways of showcasing what you've learned. Well, one of our events that we had in terms of corporate professionals was our Cargill event. And we had Anush Ankush Hore and Rajarshi Biswas over here and here present what is going on at Cargill in terms of data science. They went over their data science team and applications, the workflow they follow. Some unique topics that they covered were like model deployment and model monitoring. That's something that oftentimes students don't really know about. Once you have code and you get a decent accuracy, that's not enough. You have to test it in the corporate conditions, I guess, for like how the model would be implemented by people in the company. And that's where model deployment and using containers to test the environments is very important, as well as model monitoring, because as I said, data may change over time. And to make sure that your model is relevant at all times, you have to constantly keep rerunning the model in this monitoring process. And then they also went over something called ML Flow, which is an easy way to keep track of models while doing hyperparameter tuning. So you can pick out the best model. And this is something unique where you get a whole list of tables, you get various metrics for each model and what kind of parameters you used. So it makes it very easy to prioritize different models for different metrics and see their stats. And they went over their specific AI/ML applications, which are in computer vision, optimization, forecasting, and molecular modeling. Some strategizing on our part was collaborating with other clubs for these events. Why? Is because you get a wider reach, more people will show up to the event. In addition, people will be more, corporate officials will be more likely to agree to come to these events because they want to have a bigger turnout, as they also have networking purposes and hiring people. So recruiting people, so they want to have a bigger turnout. So that was some strategy that we focused on in these events in general. Some of our project requirements that we came up with were having 3 types of research questions: descriptive, regression, as well as prescriptive and predictive questions. And we had certain requirements on data. We wanted to make sure people provide data dictionaries, proper data documentation on the various columns or attributes used to do their analysis and modeling. And we made some requirements that if you have web scrape data, you must store it in an open source database system. And in general, if you have more than one table, we require a schema so that you can demonstrate to us the relationships between various tables and how they work together for your greater vision. And another important thing is GitHub. This is very applicable in the corporate world and not. This is how you, I guess, like control access and share files and documentation with others. And we wanted to make sure that people know how to use this. And we actually graded their GitHubs based on a README, data and file documentation, as well as how well they comment out their code, source code. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but some key criteria that we graded on was methodology, how well they fulfilled the research questions, how concise yet comprehensive they were, and also their logical flow and how well their presentation, made sense in terms of logical order and storytelling. And this is our GitHub rubric. As I mentioned, we wanted to make sure they have a good README, good data documentation, and good formats for source code. And this was kind of a format that we had written out for them for READMEs so that, one, it's applicable for this project and they can use it for future projects. And it's just good practice to have good READMEs. And then we finally had our project showcase. We had corporate officials judge our showcase. So Steve Baker from Caterpillar, David Hundley from State Farm, and Sivan Brajian from Cargill. And we also had a student judge, because I think they can provide a good perspective as well, Hadley. And they all have some sort of background with data science. One thing to notice, Steve Baker is a project manager. I think it's useful to have someone like that on the panel because you're seeing that not only technical, but non-technical audiences are able to understand presentations. And we had 6 teams present. I'll try to go to this as fast as possible. But our first team A their goal was to show how to minimize hotel revenue loss by anticipating reservation cancellations. So I took pictures of certain graphs or plots that I thought were helpful. I didn't obviously capture their whole presentation. One thing that's important is looking at feature relevance and how much does one feature affect your final thing that you're trying to measure. I think it's a really useful graph to figure out what variables matter more than others in terms of predicting cancellations. So yeah, their model ultimately predicts cancellations. A 0 is there was no cancellation, and 1 is there is a cancellation. And you can see like the various false positive, false negative rates, etc. And you can see their EDA. You can see it's important to analyze when cancellations occur. One, it's good informatively, but it can also inform other business decisions and when to prioritize such kind of modeling. And then this other team, TBDFR, they investigated causes of car crashes in Chicago. And they looked at how speed limit affects, whether or not you exceed the speed limit affects the severity of the crashes. And then they also did an analysis of where you're seated in the car affects how severe of an outcome a person faces. So those are some interesting things I thought they did. And then SIF scientists focused on analyzing sources of greenhouse gas emissions in Chicago. I really like this pie chart because it shows what kind of facilities cause the most amount of emissions. And in this graph over here, you can see the biggest causes of, in general, of how energy usage is involved or affects greenhouse gas emissions. And then the next presentation that we had, they also worked on emissions, but they looked at it in the US rather than just Chicago. And they also came up with some pretty nice insights. They had a focus on figuring out when we'll be able to reach net zero emissions. So according to their analysis, they believe that 2055 is when they'll reach that net zero. And they also looked at how the average emissions over the years in the US. And it's interesting to see how it's actually declining. That's promising. And they also did analysis on the gases with the most global warming potential. And you can see nitrous oxide has the largest potential, and you can see which state contributes to the most amount of nitrous oxide in the country. So a lot of useful insights. Okay, so that was a summary of some of our presentations, and now we have feedback for students. Some feedback that students got from us, the exec, is to focus less on technical details and more on conclusions or business outcomes, and also making sure your slides are not overcrowded. That tended to be a trend. Less is more. And some interesting feedback we got from corporate judges, especially since they have a more technical outlook, is to really know your data pre-processing techniques in the back of it, like in the back of your hand, back of your mind. And also make sure that you're going through all the possible pre-processing that you can do. Like there were times when they asked about things like hot encoding as a pre-processing technique, and people did not know what that was. So that was good learning for us that we should focus more on data pre-processing techniques in our workshops. Some feedback for exec that we learned. One thing is to learn how to plan in advance. Things like booking rooms, organizing more panels, and better club structure. This all could have been done if we planned more over the summer. Also, we want to increase staff for project and knowledge management. We felt that there was a lot of last minute things happening in terms of helping people, troubleshoot and do stuff for the presentations. We want to make the involvement more consistent. And for that, we want to actually assign project leads, just a few, and each project lead would get multiple teams as a responsibility. We also want to get special advisors to prevent things like not knowing enough about data preprocessing techniques, and to make sure that we're giving the most best and up-to-date advice to students. We as exec are also students, so we may not have all the expertise. And finally, we want to raise funding. There were multiple people that we reached out to. I remember there's this one lady named Aishwarya Srinivasan at Google, and she has a lot of knowledge on LLMs and all the niche latest technologies. unfortunately, we could not host her because we simply did not have enough funding. And there was various other people like that who we just could not afford to come and speak. So we want to raise more funding so we can get even more specialized speakers, especially in the NLP and LLM fields. Yeah, that was all. I apologize for the extremely long presentation. We had a very interesting semester. Any questions?
I appreciate that talk, Khushi. We are starting to get a little over time, so I do have some questions, but I also want to respect our time of in our slot here. We try to keep these about an hour, and we're definitely a bit over that. But you know, one thing I have noticed between all three of you is really enthusiasm. You all have that spark of enthusiasm, and I think if there's one thing I've learned today, besides there is 3 different ways to run 3 different clubs, is that your enthusiasm drives your success and your participation. It comes off of you, it drips off of you, and putting yourself out there in an unproven world, taking that risk to start clubs. All of these clubs you're talking about are very new. And Oleksandra, even when your club isn't particularly new, it's not a well-established legacy club either. You yourself putting yourself as a freshman in there in a very new way really speaks to that spark that's in all of you. And I have really enjoyed listening to you. If any of our other guests have questions, I'll give you time.
Thanks, JD, and thanks to everybody who presented today. This was a fantastic overview of what you're doing. And I think the one note that I wanted to make is it really important to see the openness to students in other fields beyond computer science, stats, math, some of the classic areas that you think about for data science, data analytics, because I think as Khushi said and Oleksandra, you both mentioned how important that is to other careers and other paths that people will take. You know, somebody in biology or chemistry may not be a data scientist for their career, but they're going to use those same skills in the work that they do going forward. And so having an opportunity to learn about those with other people is, you know, really important. And so it's great to see that there's that openness and encouragement to incorporate, you know, multiple disciplines into those student groups. I guess the question that I have, maybe we can wrap up with this question, is how do you do that outreach to those students who are not in the typical STEM fields that we think about for data science? You know, what do you use to motivate students to get engaged in data science?
And I think that question definitely applies to Elizabeth as well, even though it's not students we're looking at, but even other professionals.
Yeah, I can give my thoughts on that. The theme that we've kind of developed here of encouraging and letting our own enthusiasm for our work and our area really shine, encouraging other students to develop that as well, is definitely something I really relate to. Some of my favorite conversations when I was in school relating to BDAA and around that space were with students who were so new, they had just done their first semester, or they just joined the major, or maybe they were the same year as me later in school, but they were in a tangential area and they just wanted to learn a little bit more about analytics and become a little bit more conversational and fluent in the space because they knew the value that it had. And so I find personally that the best way is through individual conversations. I think that develops a really strong sense of that encouragement of somebody's curiosity, which is probably the strongest thing to fan and steward in somebody, to give them a little bit of vocabulary and encouragement, and encourage them, give them the tools they need to ask more questions. So especially in undergrad, those conversations where if somebody expressed a little bit of interest, or I thought they might receive well me sharing all of the kind of intro information that I knew, I would be more than happy to sit down and have that conversation or give a little bit of it then. And since then, since getting into the workforce, focusing on public speaking opportunities for myself, where I can do that in a one-to-many situation, has been something that I've really enjoyed, whether it's at companies that I'm at internally or in other meetup and speaking opportunities. So yeah, both of those have been relationally how I've done that. Yeah, great question.
I guess to build on to what Elizabeth said, she said some great things and mostly covered whatever I had to say. I would like to give some specific examples of things that I did. So for us, the key outreach was during these club fairs. And there are two things that I did. I first explained to people of different backgrounds how they could apply machine learning to their, fields and elevate decision making. Like, for example, with psychology, maybe you can do some sort of prediction of, various mental disorders, or I'm probably not giving the best example, but something along the lines of that would resonate to them and show them how data science drives decision making. In addition, I explained these concepts to them in simple to understand terms, in real life examples. For example, I said, I can use machine learning algorithm to classify apples like red, yellow, or green. So I would look at, mathematical measurements of the apples or characteristics of the apple and find patterns between the color of the apple and those measurements and use that to predict the color of the apple. Somehow this example, I experimented and this example seemed to appeal to others. So I've made this my standard example of what is machine learning, and like a simple example of how a use case or how it might work. But basically whatever Elizabeth said, but I guess a concrete example of how that could be done.
Khushi, I also really love your pun on making something about apples appealing. The dad in me.
So I would want to add from myself that one of the first duties that laid on me as on junior officer of the data science club is I have to promote the club among undergraduate students and incoming students, because the major part of the club consists of masters who are already decided with their specialization and their field and all this stuff. But I even have friends who came to our club and just try to visit one of our sessions or workshop, and they would change their major from medical school and school of education, because they said to me that they found their passion in computer science, though they were they chose their major in psychology or in something which is related to medicine. And sometimes it feels like you can even prevent people from choosing like the path and from these feelings that they would have if they, oh my God, I wasted 6 years of my education and I picked like the wrong major for me. It doesn't suit me well. And it's kind of really great to see that people sometimes even can change totally like their path because they attended only one session in club or one workshop. It takes only like hour or half of the hour, but it's really great to see that people can find their mission just in our club, and we can like prevent people from being discouraged or hugely disappointed like in the end of their education, which is it's great to see that. So I definitely like encourage other people who are not computer science who don't have computer science majors to try to participate, try to see what is that, to not hide from that, because people are also scared, as I know that, computer science is not for me because I'm really bad in math. And I was like, listen, you just have to try just once. And then, it's really impressive to see the people who would argue with you like, no, I'm not going to change that, eventually change their path like completely. So yeah.
Well, the one theme I hear over and over, it's a human connection. It's making connections with people, sharing your passion, sharing what you love to do, and finding people that want to share that passion with you. This isn't just a data science thing. this is a life thing. This is in every relationship that's successful. You're going to show your passion, be genuine and truthful about who you are and what you like to do. And I think you've all demonstrated that over and over. And that's why you're successful at these clubs. I mean, that's one of the reasons I've taken away from that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to add a final point. Oleksandra kind of reminded me of this, but something that I've been coming across a lot in my education and even in the corporate world is that people that often create, these models, they often don't understand the data. And I feel that if you have specialized knowledge, so if you are in psychology, so no matter what we do, there's going to be machine learning is going to change every single field, right? And there's a problem where machine learning people don't have data literacy, and the field experts don't have machine learning literacy. This provides the perfect way for, people in niche fields to create better models. If they get machine learning literacy and if they create the models will be actually a lot better because they understand the data better compared to people who just only know machine learning and computer science. That was
Yes.
I guess, a final thing I learned, but.
Yeah, I completely agree. The machine can only know from what past people have done, and it doesn't know the future of the innovation and ideas where we want to go. And that is where we definitely need people. Yeah. John, you want to close us out here?
Just want to thank the presenters once again. It's been really valuable to hear your experiences and your advice for other student leaders. And so I know that the folks who view this video in the future are going to be really benefiting from what you have taught us tonight. So thanks once again for being here.
And I want to thank you all, Elizabeth, Khushi, Oleksandra. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you did too. I hope you also can connect with each other and improve each other's clubs and organizations. I feel you have a lot to offer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, all of you.